Yeah, nice and clear. Um, I'm not going to give the title just yet. I'm going to leave the title to the end. Um, um, but when I was fasting, when we had the prayer and fast, um, I had a thought about Abraham, about the faith that he had, about the fact that he went anywhere and went um, without even knowing where he's going. He just went. He just obeyed, picked up and went. He just obeyed the Lord and done what the Lord had asked of him. Um, so upon this thought, I was comparing myself to what I was doing and to what I thought I should be doing in comparison to what Abraham was doing. But I found myself being stuck with this thought of how I could improve myself, what I could do better, what if there's anything else I could do. And I found I was mentally being rebellious. I was trying to do what I thought was right, but it was a rebellious thought that came to me that was stopping me from what I thought I needed to do. So over the past few days, putting this talk together has been a real help as the Lord has been providing His word in other means, in other avenues, which has helped clear the answers. I heard some good talks this week. One from our brother Dan Cashford. He was talking about the Bible and sort of how how there's people out there that translate the Bible, translate into different verses, but they're always sent with when these people do the translators, they have to translate it with the not the nicey words. They have to make it as clear as possible. And sometimes as gruesome as it can be, as we know. And upon that, we know it's the true word. We know that we can turn to the Bible, and what we hear or what we read from the Bible is the true word, because it's not just dealing with pleasantries. It's dealing with the true facts and the hardcore detail that we need to know. Also, Pastor Steve on Sunday was talking about dealing with being offended, because sometimes we can hear things from people or from the street or anything, and sometimes we can take it as a personal attack upon ourselves. And it's just quite an eye opener, because I think sometimes we do, even without realizing, we actually we get offended, and we can offend others without realizing. But he made a point that we all have a portion of this. We all have something to take away from all these negative things to help us learn, to help us grow. And this morning was a good little story about the Shunammite woman. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the story. But there was a particular bit in the story where it was made clear that she was doing things. She was doing things without even being asked to. She just enjoyed helping her brothers and sisters, helping those that need help. And this answered a lot of the answers that I was having problems with. And Abraham actually highlights he's a good example to a lot of the things that we go through, and what we should sort of do. So if you can come to me in Genesis chapter 12, please. So as we reading from verse 1. Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house unto a land that I will shew thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great. And thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. In thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken unto him. And Lot went with him, and Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So we can already see from this, as a great example for us, that he was called. He didn't call God. God called him, and he knew the right time as to when to call him. He knew that Abraham would do as God had asked of him, as we hear in Hebrews, that he, by faith, he just went. He had no idea where he was going. He had no clue what was ahead of him. He just moved. He moved with faith, and it's a real eye opener to us to know that when we are called, we are called when it's ready for God to call us. He has a time and purpose for us all. And what we should be doing is just doing as Abraham did. We shouldn't be questioning or thinking about things that the Lord has put in certain ways. We should just follow and just do as the Lord has asked us to do. Further on in chapter 12, we come to verse 15. Everyone's, I'm sure, familiar with the story of him going to Egypt, and he asked his wife not to make mention that he was his wife, that they were married. So the Pharaoh had taken his wife, and they saw that she was very fair. So just verse 15. The princess also of Pharaoh saw her and commanded her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abraham well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen, and he had asses, and men servants and maid servants, and she asses and camels. And the Lord had plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai and Abraham's wife. And then further down, we're looking to chapter 13 and verse 2. It then says, from verse 1 even, and Abraham went up out of Egypt, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abraham was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. And he went on his journeys from the south, even to Bethel, unto the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Hay. Now, there's another great example that the Lord provides for us. He provides what we need. And at this particular time, when he got into the land that the Lord given him, there was a famine in the land, and so he come down to Egypt. And for the sake of his wife, that Pharaoh had blessed Abraham with all these riches, all these provisions, and upon doing so, made him a very wealthy man. So not only did the Lord deliver them from Egypt, as like the children of Israel, but also we can see they came away with more than what he went with. So we can look to it, and we can just see God's hand, and knowing that whatever we're doing now, like with the Zoom, that God put all these provisions in place for us. He's put all these things together so we can do more for the Lord, so that we could stay in fellowship, so we could still be part of His, still maintain His church and continue to grow. The next one I want to go to, if we can, is Genesis chapter 18, please. And from verse 19, and this is where Sarah was promised that she be of a child. As I'm sure we all know, we're familiar with the story, how she was barren, and the Lord promised that she would give birth to a child. And the Lord said unto Abraham in verse 19, but I know, saying, it is verse 19. I know him, that he will command his children and his household after him. They shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment. The Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him. From this also we can see that it's another great example that God knows us. God knows what we need, what we will do, what we can do. He also knows that Abraham will keep the covenant, keep teaching the children, keep feeding the youth, so they learn of the God. They give God the credit for everything that's been put into place. And as we see, as we go, as you read through the story with Isaac and Jacob, they continue to be blessed all the way. So it's just a real blessing to see all these examples that the Lord has done for him and how much he will do for us. And can we go to chapter 22 in Genesis, please? And we hear of another a test that the Lord had done unto Abraham, to test of faith, just to see if he can overcome the trials that was coming ahead of him. As we are now in tribulations, as we go through these times, we are tested day on day for our faith and what we should be doing. And from verse 1 in chapter 22, and it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham, and said unto him, Abraham, and he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thy only son, Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for the burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went into the place which God had told him. And you can see just here, Abraham was prepared, even though Isaac was even though he wasn't his only son, but Isaac was the son that was blessed through the Lord. He was prepared to sacrifice his only son for the Lord. He was planning to go the extra mile for what the Lord has in store. And praise the Lord, as we know the story, that it wasn't him that he was crucified. Lucky that the Lord had again provided a lamb before he went ahead and done the crucifixion. But he was tested just to see how far he would go. And as we know, the same stories with God, with Jesus, where he did put him on the cross, he did sacrifice him for our sakes. And it's just something that came to me that, you know, we can do so much, we can give so much. God gives more than what we can ever give. But even just through the example of Abraham, of the small things that he's even done, they may be small, but they're great. And these are things that we can take with us and apply to our lives. Just to finish off, you can go to Philippians, please. This is Paul writing onto the church of Philippi. This is after the crucifixion, and this is just advice that Paul was giving to the church. And it's interesting. It's just interesting to see from verse 21 in chapter 1, if we're there. It's Paul reading. It says, "For me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. But if I live in the flesh, this is the fruit of my labour. Yet what I shall choose, I wot not, or I know not. For I am in strait twixt two, having a desire to depart, and to be with Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to abide in the flesh is more needful for you. And having this confidence, I know that I shall abide and continue with you for all furtherance and the joy of faith." And with this, it's just goes to show that we've been given this gift, and even though we are in the flesh, but as Paul points out, being in this flesh is needful more for others, so we can continue to show the testimony, so we can show the difference between us and the rest of the world. And we could be taken up tomorrow, we could perish tomorrow, which we'll all rejoice, because we know we'll be meeting Christ in the air. But whilst we're here, whilst we are living, we should try to do our best, as much as we can, to try and do all we can, not just for ourselves, but for those that need Lord in their lives. And just the last thought I want to leave us on, which is the title of the talk. It said, "Is there any more that we can do?" And I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Luke. That was great. So, yeah, it's very clear that I quite like the